Hello, found footage fans, and welcome to We Found a Tape. We're a podcast dedicated to all things found footage. Shaky cams, paranormal sightings, and everything with an authentic edge to make it all feel real. My name's John,
And I'm David.
and join us as we hit play and uncover what lies beyond the tape. Welcome everyone to another episode of We Found a Tape, and today we're going to be looking at a new found footage horror film that has been taking the world by storm. We checked this out because we loved Grave Encounters, and this did not disappoint. So get ready to talk about Strange Harvest.
It definitely did not disappoint, man. We'll talk about it, but it was great. Okay, it was really great, and I watched it twice, back to back, day to day, and just as good as the first time around. So it's definitely more than worth the watch. I can't. We'll get into it, but before we do, because I'm eager to get into it, let's hit him with the synopsis.
Hell yeah. And this is one I prepared. I usually love it when I prepare a synopsis ahead of time rather than try to think of one on the fly, but this is one I'm quite excited for. Strange Harvest from 2025. A documentary that details the grisly and ritualistic murders of the elusive Mr. Shiny, who terrorized and taunted the people of San Bernardino, California. Let the harvest continue.
I like that. I like when you put on the serious face and everything. You had like real emotion in that. Made my balls tingle.
Hell yeah, I'm glad. And before we go ahead, because this is a new film, I'm going to say right now that there will be spoilers ahead when we're talking about this, because we're very excited to go and deep dive into it. So if you haven't seen it yet, then pause here, go and watch it. It is available for rent on Amazon Prime, is where you can find it. I'm pretty sure there's other areas like Apple and Google Play Store and things like that where you can get it. So those are the places to go check it out. So do that if you haven't done so already. We'll be here when you come back. But Strange Harvest, written and directed by Stuart Ortiz, who is part of the Vicious Brothers, who made Grave Encounters. He also made Extraterrestrial, is another movie he worked on. Personally, I'm not familiar with that one, but Grave Encounters, love it. Absolutely love it.
Is it spelled with an X, like extra?
Yeah.
Or,
Extraterrestrial. Okay.
I think I've seen it before, but not recently, so I can't recall.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and watch that one. But yeah, Strange Harvest, man. This movie got me, like, in the beginning, it seemed kind of like, like if you were to watch like Unsolved Mysteries or something, like a modern Unsolved Mysteries, that's kind of how it starts out. And just the vibe from it, the seriousness of the actors and how they delivered everything was just so genuine. Like if I had gone in not knowing what this was and just found it on Tubi or something like that, I would have thought this was a real thing. Like Mr. Shiny was real and out there, and he's coming for me,
Absolutely. And I think it's done incredibly well. The attention to detail is really what makes it stand out. I think, especially in today's society where we're so invested in true crime documentaries, like Netflix and other streaming services are always pumping out true crime documentaries. It's probably one of the most watched type of documentary that you can get. There's so many different TV shows that are true crime oriented, Unsolved Mysteries, Forensic Files, and just the barrage of Netflix ones. It definitely felt higher budget in terms of like the Netflix type of documentary that you would see on there. Of course, it's not real. Again, spoiler, it's not real. And,
But if you came across this without knowing what you were going to watch, you would consider it a real like documentary that you would have seen, like you said, on Forensic Files or Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. But these detectives that they were interviewing, you know, I really liked how one was the man was so like method detective, like everything was by the book, how he was explaining everything. And then you had the woman detective who was just kind of like loose on the fly, dropping an F-bomb here or there. And then, you know, she was just like, you know, comparing things like, you know, things seen in the sky, like an aurora borealis, like that's a thing from space, right? It's like, no, it's not a thing from space, it's in the fucking atmosphere. It's like, Jesus, lady, like you're just gonna like compare it to shit you don't even know about. And you know, that one got me. It was like, you know what, just stop talking to her, she doesn't know anything, get her out of here.
Yeah. So you mentioned there it was the detective. So we have Detective Joe Kirby. So Detective Kirby is the guy, and then Detective Lexi Taylor is the female detective. And the way it sort of starts is it introduces them. They go a bit into their sort of background, what they were doing up until that point, and it really felt like this case changed them for sure.
Yeah.
This was something that really like stood out to them. There's always like, and I stand by it. I think that for a lot of police officers, especially in places like New York, California, Texas, probably, Louisiana, like some of these like well-known states and cities that are very densely populated, I feel like there's always going to be some form of case that sticks with you. If you're a detective or police officer or something, there's always going to be one case. It's probably the same for everywhere, but like those places in particular, I would assume. So being set in California, it's set in the Inland Empire, which is San Bernardino, in that area of California. So it's set in it's all set in real place in real world, and that's what adds to the illusion of this being a true crime documentary.
And I thought it was a really nice touch, like you said, where in the beginning they went into the backstory of, you know, how they started out as detectives. You know, the guy was saying that he wanted to be a metal band drummer, you know, things like that. But it gave that genuine feeling to it, that it was real, because in those, you know, mystery things or forensic files, you know, they go back like that. They'll do some background on the detective that's, you know, doing the story or the interview. And I thought that was a really nice touch, because, you know, a lot of people will fumble, you know, movies like this and just kind of go into the story and not give any background on who they're interviewing. So I thought it was a really nice touch.
And I liked the format of it, in terms of the way that it showed off the old news footage and the attention to detail for that. I liked the way it sort of bridges the gap. It sort of starts with the family that's murdered.
Yes.
And then it jumps back to sort of give you that fill in the blanks of like where they knew all of this information from, or where they were aware of this killer that had been dormant for like 20 odd years, just suddenly coming back out the blue and in such an extravagant way. It's like, it was intense. Some of these crimes and murders were very elaborate, very kind of almost reminded me of like the Collector, or like like the Poughkeepsie tapes, like that kind of vibe. It gave me that. Yeah. It was like sort of like posing victims to like show them off in these like horrible and horrific positions and things like that.
And like you said, it was crazy because they showed actual pictures of the bodies and everything, and they were so detailed. Like, I was convinced that these were real dead bodies. These were like pieces of crime evidence that they integrated into the movie. And I was like, wow, like this is super fucking intense. And the fact that it was a family, right? So it was the mother, the father, and a child, a daughter,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
were in this same position, that were bound and bled dry. And you know how they went into detail about talking about what this guy did, how he thought it out, and how they were saying that, you know, if it was a murder, somebody would just kill you and run away. But because they think of it as a ritualistic murders, because the person stuck around, changed or altered the scenario in kind of a way to where it looks like that, and they stuck around. Like they were saying that this guy was there for a couple of hours, left, came back with a ladder, got up on the wall on the ceiling, and drew a symbol in their blood, you know. And he was very detailed about it. Like he went over it a couple of times, like if he was actually like painting with their blood, you know what I mean. And he had a lot of attention to detail in the actual symbol. So it was very fucking crazy, man. That first one just kind of drew me in, because like they didn't, that would be something that you would see halfway through the movie, or something like that you would build up to. Like they just came right out with it, and this is how we start, you know. Like this guy just did something horrific, and we're just starting, and he's just starting.
Absolutely, it's the fact that that is shown right at the very beginning sort of sets the playing field for the rest of the film. That's the tone. It's gonna ramp up from here, and I mean that's pretty bad. Like a family is completely, annihilated, and the taunting of the police is very reminiscent of like Zodiac, which was another California-based real life serial killer who terrorized a lot of people, scared a lot of people. And it's kind of leaning more into that.
Yeah, I picked up on that, and I really liked how they went into detail about how he cut the femoral artery when he bound them sitting upwards, and put their feet inside the bucket and let them bleed dry. And the forensic scientist was talking about how, if you cut the femoral artery, it takes this many minutes for you to bleed out and die, but essentially you can die in 3 minutes. It just depends on you. And the detail where the detective was talking about how he planned this out to where he put their names on the buckets, and he even put measuring of what point of the blood would get where they're getting there, or which is going, gone, which were the labels of the measurings would just say, they're going right here, they're almost gone, and right here all their blood is out, they're dead. Like there's no coming back.
Oh,
yeah, it was creepy, man. It was super fucking creepy. Like just to start out that way.
Yeah, it gave me chills, man.
And that's what hooked me. It was like, holy shit, like, okay, I'm not falling asleep on this one. Let's see what's, let's progress forward. Let's see what else this guy's gonna do.
Absolutely.
And I like the letters too, the whole taunting of the letters, because like you said, it was something, that was very like Zodiac killers. So I really like that they kind of put that in there, and it really added to not only that, but the reading of the letter. They use like a robotic voice. It kind of reminded me of Cain when they let him first talk, where he get the device and put it in his throat. He's like, I am Cain.
Oh, you're 100% right. I didn't think of that in the moment, but I did think, I was like, oh, this robotic voice is like super creepy when it's reading through the letters.
Right.
Oh.
Like there was so many good touches that just brought this movie to life, man. Like it's just crazy. It's crazy. Like I think anybody that watches this is, if this is something that you're into, if you're into like forensic file shit, like Poughkeepsie tapes, things like that, where people were killed in ritualistic ways, this is right up your alley, man. And even if it's not, man, this movie will shock you in a creepy way.
Oh, absolutely. I think really for people that like things like the Poughkeepsie tapes, or even I know it's maybe a different sort of vibe. It's not it's true crime necessarily, but Megan is Missing as well kind of holds that that full documentary. I think the closest is probably Poughkeepsie tapes, though. in terms of the content of it, the fact that they're stalking a serial killer and sort of documenting what's happening. To me, it kind of, another accurate way I think of describing it is Poughkeepsie Takes meets Seven, based on these crimes that he's doing. It's kind of very, they're very ritualistic. In Seven, it's based on the Seven Deadly Sins. This is based on sort of some cosmic anomaly that happens. What is it? Every 500 years, they said.
800 years.
800 years. Damn, even longer. But yeah, basically he's using that. It's like almost like it's almost kind of witchy as well, where he's trying to like conjure something.
Right.
But it starts him off like, so it starts with the family, and then we jump back to hearing about some of his earlier crimes, and back in the 90s he kills a young woman and dismembers her. They find her body in the woods. He starts taking things like organs, like livers and eyes and things like that. And he ends up doing that with his first set of victims until he disappears. Basically, he just goes dormant for, they say 15 years?
15, 20 years, yeah.
15,
but this dude
years.
went on a whole ass like adventure. Like he went to the Middle East.
Yes.
And then he crossed into, was it not Jerusalem, or was it?
Well, he started in Israel. He went to Jerusalem, and then he went through like Iraq and Iran and things like that, and then ended up in like Europe. And he ended up in Germany and France and things like that. Italy as well.
Right. And I think it was it Germany was the last one where they lost him for like 2 years or a year or something like that. And then randomly just a murder happened back home where he was at originally. And that's where it started again. And it just happened like so many years later. And it just like picked up, like he took a hiatus, and that was it. But before he went on that hiatus, the one that got me, and I'm trying to remember the timeline, but I'm pretty sure it happened where he got that couple where he decapitated the girl. He put her head in the woods with the symbol with her head in the middle, and the guy, he held him down, got a blowtorch and burned his whole face off. And then they interviewed this guy, and the effects, dude, like I could have sworn this really happened to this guy. Like what they did as far as like the disfiguring of the face and everything was just so genuine, dude. Like whoever did that did a really, really good job. Like that was super convincing. Like I really thought that guy was a burn victim.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought seeing him, I was like, holy shit. Like it's really, really detailed, and like you can tell this guy is like fucking fed up of life, man.
Yeah, he is.
I think the timeline of it, though, this happens after the family. So
right,
that's one of his newer ones. So like in the 90s, he kills a woman, an old man, and a young boy who's like 13. And then he goes away for like 15, 20 years. He does get arrested in Italy, is what they say. And that's kind of, I watched that a second time today as well, and that filled me in on it. The way that the story portrays all this information, they sort of start to give you that information first of the new crimes. They jump back to the old crimes, then they jump back to the future, and then they find out more about who the killer actually is. And then you find out that he actually went on like this Middle Eastern adventure, European adventure, and it kind of jumps through different sort of time zones, and that kind of threw me off initially, but now rewatching it filled in that gap, and now I understand that like the reason he was dormant for 15 years is that he went on this journey, and really the purpose of it was to, I guess, find some spell book that he wanted to conjure something. So
And just to backtrack a little bit, as the old man was one of the earlier victims, he was in an assisted living home, and this guy came in through like a back door into the assisted living place. This old man had like a disease to where he was bedridden, right? Like he virtually couldn't defend himself,
Yeah.
and he beat him to death with the oxygen tank. And it was just brutal because they showed actual pictures of the crime scene, and you could feel that, the horror that happened there. Like it just felt so fucking real, dude. Like
Yeah.
like it was so convincing. I can't the that's all I can say about it. It was just so convincing, and it was so good, man. And going back forward, you know, they're talking about how when they run into this doctor, and I think he's from Germany. He's like I don't know if he's an archaeologist or just a historian or whatever he is. He's talking about his encounter with this guy, that he wanted to buy this book from him, and it was like one of a half dozen books of copies of it that was left in the world. So it was a super rare book that was expensive, but he got a bad vibe from him, didn't want to sell him the book. And then a day or two later, his bookshop is robbed, and this book is the one out of everything, is the thing that happens to go missing. So right away he knew who it was. So I mean, it was crazy that he was going for this book, and he was explaining that this was like old world ritual spell book.
Yeah. It seems like, especially in this investigation, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it, and the fact that how close they get to actually catching him is pretty insane. And for me, probably one of the most harrowing ones that really visually affected me was he meets up with a man that he reaches out to through like a coffee shop. He like posts an ad on like Craigslist or something, and the guy shows up and he basically subdues him, strips him naked, throws him in a pool in an abandoned building.
Oh yeah,
covered in barbed wire and glass, and like this like shallow. Well, it's kind of shallow. It's not like full of water, but it's shallow.
Yeah, it's like a couple of inches of water.
Yeah, and what he was doing was, oh my god, fucking throwing leeches in so that they would suck on his blood, and then he would take off the leeches that were full and put new ones in. So he was just in there for days, just cycling through leeches and like basically torturing this guy to death through the fucking leeches. And they were like, and this happened for so long. Like the reason no one heard any screams is because he cut out his tongue. So he cuts out his tongue, fed him to the leeches, and then when you see the guy, like I don't know if it's a prosthetic or if it's makeup or whatnot, but when the guy's laying on the table and he's got all the bites all over him.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
Yeah, it was bad, man. I agree.
And that's where it reminds me of Seven in a way, because like some of the elements in Seven, like at the beginning when they go into the apartment building and the guy's like completely like skin and bones and like almost dead. Like that level of torture where it's just like slow and painful and like horrific, and like that, it gave me vibes of that. And like when you saw the crime scene photos of them like going in and showing all the barbed wire around it and all the glass and all that, and then also the fact that he was taking care of the leeches. So he was coming in, he was changing the filter, and he was like changing out the water and like putting all that. So he was taking care of it, and they were so like flabbergasted at the fact they had some sort of paternal instinct about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
To the point where they called him out on it. So
yeah, it was crazy shit, man. Like, and we're only halfway through the movie, right? So like we still got like at that point we're halfway through the movie, so we hadn't even gotten to like the whole reason why he's doing this yet. So it's a wild ride. It is a wild ride, man. Yeah. Like I was completely like tuned in. Like there's not very many movies that can keep me like tuned in throughout the whole movie. Like at some point I'll pull out my phone and start checking messages and things like that or something along that line. But no, like I was totally into this movie.
Oh, it was great. It's probably one of the best, like, mockumentary or faux documentary, or however you want to call it. Genuinely, it's up there as one of the best. It's really well done. The attention to detail is just insane, and the story of it keeps you engaged the whole time, and you're always on your seat because you're like, whoa, what the fuck is happening? And it's just basically from the point of view of the detective, really, where they're telling you, like, this is the case of, as we find out, is Leslie Sykes, who they end up finding because while they were surveying the coffee shop that the IP address came from, but that he posted the ad, they find out and they stake it out. They couldn't find him, but they found a lot of homeless people there. So they started to ask around, because they're the ones that would have sort of insight that no one else really would have. They could see people going in and out, and are a bit more vigilant about themselves,
Right.
rather than going in on the blinders and grabbing your coffee, going out, going to work, and whatever, forgetting everything. So that's where they end up getting their biggest lead, because that takes them to a guy who ultimately was offered a job for this guy, and the only reason he was saved is because he had like a fake, or not a fake, but like a diabetes wristband or piece of jewelry.
It was a medical bracelet.
Yeah, and he turns out it wasn't his, and he got angry, so he kicked him out, and he didn't end up taking him anywhere, but he had to stop at his house to get some supplies first, and that's where they were able to take the detectives. And at first, at first glance, they didn't really see anything until they noticed right above the door is a symbol
that he's been drawing at every crime scene.
Yeah, the symbol that appears, it's like a triangle with a circle in the middle and 3 points with circles on the end of lines, which you'll see quite a bit in our promotional material for this episode. But
there's something about that symbol that just it's creepy, man. And like I would never look at, like I'm sure, like if I had seen the symbol before I had seen the movie, something about that symbol would creep me out, because it's very like Zodiac or Old World or something like that, because it looks like a constellation almost, right?
Right, yeah, and kind of that's where it leads into this more cosmic, sci-fi type element that's added into it, where you find out more about why and the reason for him doing all of this, and sort of where the origins of it come from. After they find out who this guy is, that's where they start to piece things together and start to find out a bit more about him. And that's also ultimately where he starts to just, care less about what's happening with the police. Like he knows that they know who he is by that point. Was it they end up like digging up his house and like breaking in the door and like going through everything, and they're trying to figure out like any information about him, and they start going through like they're digging up the back garden and they don't find anything, but there's a telescope looking up at the sky that they just so happen to get a full fingerprint from, that ends up giving them the identity of who the guy is.
The one that got me was because, when he started sending the letters, he was saying that there's 10 more to go, right? So as he progresses, and I can't remember if it's in the first 5 or the last 5, where they show where they actually physically see him in the act, because they got video footage, right? So there's this girl that is making what I would think is a TikTok or YouTube video in her room of a makeup tutorial, right? She's talking about the palette of different like blushes or whatever they are, the different colors. Sorry, I don't know makeup. I'm just assuming. But she's talking about it, and they were saying how this guy got into the house for this victim. He snuck in through a window, and she thinks it's the parents, and it's not. So she comes in screaming, closes her door, tries to make a call. He kicks open the door, comes in, and she's begging for her life. He pulls out a handgun, boom, shoots her in the head, and then she flops over on the other side of the bed, between the wall and the bed, walks over, and he puts two more in her. And like, you can just see, like, you know, it's you don't see his face because he's wearing the Mr. Shiny mask that is creepy itself. It is so plain and so basic, but it's creepy because of the way that it looks. And at some point, he comes around the bed because he puts her back on the bed, the body, right? And he starts like mumbling this stuff and putting his arms out. And then you start to see the camera distort, and these weird like color shapes starting to happen, dark shadows, and then it stops, and then he just kind of hits the ground, almost like he was doing something ritualistic, and almost like he was like conjuring or summoning something. And you get a glimpse of what is happening here. It's something cosmic, it's something supernatural, it's, you know, something sci-fi. My only concern was I didn't know which way it was, but I didn't care because it was so like, it was so gripping. Like, I was just waiting to see what was going to happen next. Like, he could have combined, the director or the creator could have like combined all three, and it could have been all three, and I would have been all for it, because it had me hooked, man.
And I only realized that after watching it a second time that I think I pieced it together, right? First time seeing it, I was kind of like, I wasn't really a fan of it, because I was like, okay, it's a bit too weird. But then I thought to myself on the second time watching it, right, every other victim that he has never been documented, right? This is the first one that we're seeing him actually in the act of, you know, basically killing someone, right? And his whole thing, right? So what he does is he cuts a piece of her hair when she's laying on the ground, and just before he brings her up. So my thought is that it's almost like a confirmation or to whatever deity or god or whatever entity that he's trying to summon here. It's to say, like, okay, like almost like a marker to say, like, hey, this is the marker. It's like a ritual that happens before the ritual, just to say, like, this, rather than just taking it and being like, I'll use it for my ritual. It's very methodical. And he ultimately sings or says an incantation that triggers something, whether that is like this being coming and showing itself for a brief moment to, like, as like a validation, to be like, hey, this is an offering for you type thing. Maybe that's me reading too far into it.
No, that's actually good.
Right, I think that might be it, and kind of maybe the reason I didn't initially sort of think of it in that way is just, you know, seeing it. It's very jarring, especially considering the fact that you've just watched a child be shot in the head,
right?
Who's just been doing like a webcam fucking tutorial of whatever, and she's just killed in her bedroom, right? So, or so we think. So
and I think you're right about this, because if you look at like religions that involve rituals, like you give offerings, right? Like if you look at if I'm going to use a religion as example, Santeria. So Santeria, you have these deities or gods that you pay tribute to. So if you have one, for example, this particular god or deity likes cigars, whiskey, or rum, and say they have a sweet tooth, you know, in their lore they have a sweet tooth, so you put some candy there as well, and this is an offering. So this particular god, whether or deity, or like you said, whatever it is that he's ultimately trying to bring forward, you know, I think you're right that he did some kind of ritual to communicate with it and say, I got this offering for you, and I'm taking it with me because this is how I'm going to bring you. I'm collecting all the pieces that we need, and here's one of them.
Yeah. That and that's the beauty in watching movies multiple times, is where you kind of pick up on these things you may not notice initially because you're just really just invested in the story and what's happening visually in front of you, that you don't really take a moment to not manifest, but like, you know, really appreciate it or understand it. Like sometimes it can just be caught off guard, right? And for me, the first time watching it definitely was that. So that's kind of what my first initial thought was. He also, and also another thing, he draws the symbol on the wall before he does it.
Yes.
Right. So that is like the conduit to bring whatever this is out. Right. It's like that is a small piece. It's just drawn on a wall or made in a park with like branches and like a head in the middle.
Right.
That's kind of his way of being like, okay, this is the almost even like a glimpse of like, hey, this is a communication, like a message to say the next part of the harvest has been done. So therefore, here is, you know, to mark it so that it makes whatever they've taken from the victim valuable in terms of the summoning or the spell or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
that's crazy, man.
And even the craziest part after that is the fact that he then at that point the police know who he is, so they're looking for him. And he's communicating with them, sending them letters saying like, oh, you found me, you know who I am. And like Leslie Sykes has transcended and like he's not around anymore. I am Mr. Shiny and blah, blah, blah. And the part that fucking got me, and again, as a police officer would probably get me even more, is the fact that the girl survives. She makes it to the hospital. And he attacks a night nurse, or he attacks a nurse, steals his credentials, and basically walks into the hospital and pretends, oh yeah, I'm new, I've been transferred from so-and-so or whatever. He's like, I'm here to help. And they're like, okay, start putting to work. He's like taking people off to like their rooms and all that. And then walks right past the police officers. And then it's insane the amount of knowledge that he has on these people, because he knows that the girl is AB negative blood type.
Yes.
I guess he must like hack the system or some way, or like gain entry somehow, probably, you know, from him being able to just blend in. But he knows that she is the only one that's going to use the AB negative blood bags for transfusions, and he fucking puts bleach in it.
Oh, he puts Drano.
Yeah, like bleach drain cleaner.
Yeah. And that's how she dies. And then they show the actual thing where she's just kind of like that, but with like vomit everywhere and stuff like that. Like this girl, like, you know, suffered, you know, when she died, because this shit was just pumped into her veins, and you know, it killed her. It was crazy, man. That was, and like you said, like I'm the way the cop, like he hated himself for that, because like they were just so involved in the case. This guy just walked literally right behind them, and they never even knew that he was there. He just so confidently just walked past them in the surveillance footage and just made his way. It's crazy, man.
It was insane, man. It's like something you'd see in like Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that. And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show how, like, although he's like, when I first saw his picture on his like license, I was like, God, this guy's fucking ugly as fuck looking, man. He's so strange and so like weird, but at the same time, like, he hides in plain sight, so he is able to go undetected. But until you like blast his picture everywhere and say this guy is dangerous, this guy is a killer, then no one would know the wiser. They just think he's just a big tall guy. He's probably charming. He's probably polite. Same way a lot of serial killers are. It's not. They know how to manipulate a situation, and they use manners and charm and kindness in a split moment to turn a situation in their direction. So,
you know, when I first saw his ID when they made him, you know, and they said it's Leslie Sykes, as soon as I saw his face, it reminded me of that guy from The Devil's Rejects where they say that boy over there looks sexually frustrated. Boss, he called me a chicken fucker. It reminded me of that guy. I can't remember the actor's name, but
Michael Berryman.
yeah, Michael Berryman. Yeah,
yeah, he's just a big, tall, odd-looking guy. Like,
yeah,
it's probably someone that you would, if you saw him, you would be like, "Oh yeah, that guy's a killer." Like saying it in jest, but he's actually a really nice guy. In this case, yeah, he was a killer. So, but yeah, he ramps up. At that point, he doesn't wear any. Another thing I noticed, he doesn't wear any gloves when he was caught on camera. He didn't wear any gloves, and also he like pulls up his sleeve, right, or he like puts his arm out, and he's got the hairiest fucking arms. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how did this guy not get caught before? We find out why ultimately when a little bit later on, but at that point he just gave up. He knew the police knew who he was, right? They were looking for him, so
it's no point in it was no point in like paying attention to detail and not leaving any DNA or hair or anything behind. So
yeah, the mask was really just the only thing, and that was just there for intimidation and also to conceal who he was to those people. And after that, when you start seeing the mask and like the clips and stuff of CCTV footage of like the donut shop, for example, when he goes there and murders the young guy, like you see him look in the window. He like looks in the window and you see it at the corner, and then he like runs around the back, cuts the guy's heart out.
Yeah, dude, that was another brutal one because you can see like when he stabbed him initially, all the blood that hit the ground.
Yeah. And from there, that's when he ultimately meets it's like a security guard or like the owner of like the complex that the donut shop's in. He's like going around like checking, and I think he said he was going to he was on the news, and he said that he saw the license plate. He saw the license plate, gave it to police, and ultimately tried to pursue the guy and went on the news, right? So clearly Mr. Sykes here, Mr. Shiny Sykes, was watching the news, clearly, because that's where he finds out, and this guy gets messed up big time.
Yeah.
With the Blood Eagle, which kind of remind me of like Hannibal, like the TV show. There's a lot of like that where they like rip open, like he basically fucking cracks out his lungs, rips all his tendons off, and like ties them up to a swing set, and it's called a Blood Eagle.
Right away, before they even said Blood Eagle, I knew what it was because I'm a big fan of the show Vikings. So they did that a few times in the show, and right away I knew what it was. I was like, holy shit, they fucking Blood Eagled him.
Yeah.
And then they go into detail about it, Viking mythology as a ritual that they would Blood Eagle somebody, and basically they're pulling out the flesh to make it resemble wings, but they're also like ripping out the ribs outwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy, man, what he did to that guy. And then he put him up at a child's playground in a swing set.
Yeah. And it's fucking nuts. And he also sends, or no, he doesn't send it. I think he leaves it at this crime scene. It's like covered in blood. It's like a videotape or like a CD-ROM or something like that. Like it's a some sort of video of him that he leaves a note that says like, play me, please make sure that you're installed to this specific version so that you can see it. He like made sure that they were able to watch this because he wanted to see it. And that's where we see the guy who's like fucking, I think he's like tied up, his feet are all, he always puts people's feet in buckets. And he's there, he's getting tormented, he's in the dark and like the lights go on, and again you see him like behind through this like plastic sheet, and you see like that face, that mask coming through, and that's where he attacks him, and he goes through that, and
The mask was such a nice touch, man.
Yeah, it was such a creepy mask because it was so plain and emotionless and sort of faceless. It's really creepy.
And it really tied into the actual serial killer because he was very, emotionless in these kills. Like there was no remorse whatsoever. People died in the worst ways.
Exactly. And as we progress, we're getting to the tail end of the events of it. The last piece that they finally sort of get when they're at the house is that one of them blows a fuse when they have like these like lamps in because like the lighting was completely off, I guess, at the place where he was staying at to like sort of keep up appearances. And when they went to go and like put the panel on and like check the breakers, like it was completely fake, and it just exposed this little like box that had his expired passport and a key for a lockbox at like a storage facility. And really, that's where they find out how he went undetected and didn't leave any fingerprints and whatever for so long because he had all these hazmat suits and gas masks and all that sort of stuff.
He was well prepared.
Yeah, and he was in there, and
he had more leeches in there. He had like a whole setup for leeches, aquariums. Yeah, he had them. Like, and this goes back to like, it's a very old like magic or ritual that he's trying to perform, because a lot of like old world magic involves things of the stars, like the zodiac signs, like things the way that they align in the sky, blood, because a lot of old magic like that involves blood, ritual sacrifice, body parts, organs, things like that. So as you're piecing through the movie, you kind of pick up on all that.
Yeah, and it's and a lot of the organs he like keeps in like jars. Everything's all painted in blood, and it's just the imagery is just fucking just insane, man. Like they really up the creep factor and the mythology, and that's where you start to go into like the cosmic element, the astrology and the stars, and really what he was looking at on the night that they sort of looked up at the telescope, like kind of figured out like a bit more about what this deity is that he's going towards, and they find the statue of like the it's like almost like a worm, like a creature that's like it's
almost like a serpent leech,
right? And it's got the triangle, like the mouth is sort of triangular shaped with like the crease here is like almost like creases, and kind of like and that
reminded me a little bit like the like the Predator, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it was just I don't know, it was so weird, man. It had like so many different features of things that ultimately created what was the thing that he was worshiping or trying to like bring forward.
Right. And we ultimately find out that the reason for all of this is he was a hiker, and he liked to go camping and things like that, and he went to places like Joshua Tree and out in the woods and the forest area and the desert and all that. And one of the times he was exploring, he tells us to someone who they end up interviewing. They were saying that he had this experience when he was in one of those tunnels or one of those caves that ultimately triggered all of this. So I guess he stumbled upon something that was otherworldly, whether that is, and considering the fact that what we see in the end of the film, like I think it kind of gives more legitimacy to like what it is to become more of a cosmic thing rather than like he's just crazy and whatnot. He ultimately has experienced some sort of otherworldly thing, some sort of alien, some sort of cosmic being, which you mentioned Predator. Like Predator is not of this world, right?
Right.
He's from another time, another planet, another area, and really that's kind of similar in nature, and I think it's more so just whatever he's come into is sheer by mistake, and it's ultimately changed his chemistry, and it's an evil entity. It's clearly not something of good, right? It's maybe something that wants to come to Earth and destroy the world type thing. So
right, that's interesting that you say it that way. That's another way of looking at it. How interesting.
Yeah. And then as that happens, we see right at the end, he sort of goes into I guess this is where he's picked out a location of where the final harvest is going to happen, and that's where he gives the police a specific time as to when the reaping will be finished, or whatever it is that he refers to it as. I think it's at like 8:30 or 7:30 or something in the morning. So the police are like racing to get there, and that's where he ends up heading into the woods and comes across.
And keep in mind that there was a last victim there. He had kidnapped an infant child out of the crib, and he was taking it as the last offering. He was going to set the kid on fire. He had created a pyre, like an altar kind of for the child as a final offering. I guess the most innocent, pure thing that you can, sacrifice. Yeah. And that's where the cops are racing to get to him. And then what was really good about this, because at the same time he got his 9th victim, right? Because he the local cops that got on scene first, they were in the woods looking for him, and he shot one of them in the head. And that was a very good effect, because it made me jump back because of the impact and the way it looked before he hit the ground. I was like, holy shit, that it felt like it really fucking happened. It was a really good like jump scare scene for me, because it made me jump a bit. And I was like, holy shit, he just took him out. And then, he attacked the other guy and stabbed the shit out of him. He's standing over him. He's all, one more to go. And then he walks over to the kid that's crying, light something on fire. He's about to, set the kid on fire. And that's when the detectives come and they shoot him. And, he's down, but he disappears. Like, they turn their backs for just a moment to check on the guy. And then, the other one, there's one detective, which is, I believe is the one that's doing the interview. What is it? Joe is his name. He's checking on the guy that stabbed on the ground, and the other detective is like, he's gone. And sure enough, like, his body wasn't there anymore. He was gone.
And just before that as well, while he's, about to light the pyre, he's like conjuring something. He's looking up to the sky, and that's when we start to see the clouds kind of adjust and start moving in rotation, and that sort of purplish hue is coming through the sky, and even the girls that are there, they were just camping in the area, just so happened to be at the same time. They end up, one of them has a seizure, one of them ends up like ultimately getting epilepsy after that. The other one gets something else, and it's like ultimately from that, and as soon as it starts going in the sky, they like look up, and like their eyes are rolling back in their head, and it's like starting to like interact. And that was also very well done.
Yes.
Again, leaning into the cosmic element. You don't really ever see any sort of being or any entity come through, but you start to see the cloud formations, and it's starting to, whatever he's been doing, he has been able to conjure something, and he's finally at that final stage, just as he's about to sacrifice the child, and then he's apprehended. He does disappear, but ultimately he just gets away to the point where he's like in a creek somewhere, and then when they find him, he's like covered in leeches, and like his eyes all like fucking bugged out and shit.
And it's weird because, when they find him, they said it was just for a few moments that they had lost him. But when they found him, it's like these leeches had been sucking on him for some time. You know what I mean? Like, it was very, very weird. Like, where did the leeches come from? I mean, sure, they came from the water or whatever, but like they were attracted to him. Yeah. Like, if he was like summoning the being into him that was like some kind of leech deity, and it made him like a magnet for leeches, and they stuck to him and disfigured his whole face.
Yeah, it was intense, and a lot of the visuals, a lot of the crime scene photos, like they were very full on, very well done, very believable. And yeah, and that's kind of where we get to. And then one other thing about this film, I mentioned to David as well. There's a post-credit scene
Yeah.
where we wrap things up with the detectives, and they sort of go away, and they you find out that they get a letter a couple of days after that was dated 2 days prior, and it's a letter from Leslie Sykes, Mr. Shiny, to say that he's going to be back in another 800 years to finish what he started, and then it kind of ends, and then the post-credits scene we see Detective Kirby. He's doing hikes, and he's checking all of the cave areas in the region that he was told that he was looking in, and he's got this map looked out, and he's got different plot points, and he's like checked off some, and he's checked off others, and like some says dead end and all that, and it goes to show that it never left him, and he's still either curious to find out what Sykes saw for himself to continue it. Maybe he was affected in a negative way after the deity, like he could have been impacted
Possessed.
by it. So
that's yeah, and I feel like that sets it up for a sequel, right? And I am very much down for that sequel, because this was like a story that would have just ended there without that credit scene, but you add that, and it's like that's right. Like, we don't know where this thing came from, what he experienced in that cave, but now because they brought that to light in an after credit scene, it would be very cool to see where this thing came from, what it really was, and kind of get like an origin story, even though it's not an origin story, but it's a sequel that talks about it. So if it's ever done, man, I am 150% in, because this movie was phenomenal.
One thing that comes to mind is that because of the amount of information that this guy documented over so many years about all his victims and all that, he had like fucking cabinets full of information. I wouldn't be surprised if he had left any sort of like videotapes or like interviews or just tapes of whatever happened, like him capturing it. Ultimately they could make like a Strange Harvest, the Mr. Shiny tapes or something like that, and it's like showing you like the police suddenly come across it. It's the same documentary team that are just like, oh shit, like the story's not over, like we found, or the police find these tapes or whatever that go into the lore and add to that story. Like really the areas where we didn't see him, it fills that gap and builds the lore even more. So
yeah,
that's my thought anyway.
But I'm all for it, man. But yeah, that's Strange Harvest in a nutshell. It was a very big nutshell, but I mean that's basically what we experienced. I would watch this movie again. I mean, over and over. It's right up there with like Hell House, movies like that I could just put on and watch again, because it was just so gripping and captivating. Like, it was just crazy, man.
This film is fantastic, and I've said it a few times, like, you need to run and watch this, don't walk. There's a couple, like Savage Land is a good one. The Poughkeepsie tapes obviously is another good one. Like, it's up there as like one of the best. And I mean, they come from a line of such solid found footage. Like Grave Encounters is another favorite of a lot of people because it's done so well, and it's so creepy, and it's so just really well done. So
with all that said, let's go ahead and rate it.
Hell yeah. I think I can take it first.
Okay.
And yeah, just piggybacking off what was said throughout the whole episode, truly, like, this is one of the best that I've seen for a long time. I think it's great that this type of movie is getting out into the public eye. I think last year it debuted at Fantastic Fest, and it got a lot of buzz from it. And from there, it just culminated in just this incredibly detail-oriented. The lore was so good and enticing and gripping that it just made you want to watch the entire thing, like you said, like, not look away from it. So that I absolutely love. My tiny little gripe is just that that, like, everything else had such care and attention, even as like old stock footage of, like, news reports and stuff like that. That was kind of given a bit more attention than it was to some of these pictures. And I mean, again, it's a tiny little thing, really, but things like that kind of bug me. But yeah, for that, I think I'm gonna give it 5 tape.
We talk about a lot of these big budget movies and some that are not very big budget, but they've what's up, dude? Okay, hold on, I'm almost done. Calm down. So we talk about these movies that that have had such great impact on us, that have made markers in found footage, that have paved the way for other movies. I feel like this could potentially pave the way for other movies coming forward for such great detail and things like that. I'm not going to repeat everything that I said throughout, because I've said so many good things about it, so I feel like I'm just repeating myself. And with all that being said, I am going to go and give it a golden tape for me. I think it's really up there.
I didn't see it here. It wasn't in Canada, so which I was really gutted about. And I wish that I got to see it in the theater. I think I would have absolutely loved it. But yeah, it kind of got a small release, which is pretty cool for found footage in this sort of genre. I think it's more so genre that's now more acceptable in life, and it's coming back again. It's almost making a resurgence over the past few years, where studios are taking a look at it. Now we know that Grave Encounters is getting reboot by Justin Long and like all that, and it's being produced by a bigger studio and stuff, and it's bringing that found footage element into the mainstream. That I think is just fantastic, and I think it really helps to breed more. They breed more creators and creative minds to really move the genre forward, and I definitely think this is a film that definitely moves the genre forward in a great direction. This is a great movie to tell people if they're into things like true crime and things like that. I think it's fantastic.
I agree, and I can't wait to get a physical copy of this movie, because it's that fantastic. Like, I would go out and buy this, and I don't go out and buy I buy physical media, but I'll go get it as a bargain, things like that, and get it later on down the road. I don't really get special editions unless it's something that's really like a favorite of mine, and this one I would spend money for, to get some kind of special edition or something like that.
Hell yeah, I'm really excited for it to come out on like Blu-ray or something, because I really would like to own it. I think Stuart Ortiz did a fantastic job, the creative team, and it got picked up by Saban Films. So Saban Films is a relatively big distributor. They did the new Power Rangers movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that, but they did that. Saban has always been sort of related to that. So Saban. Yeah, however you pronounce it.
And they're the studio that put out the Power Ranger TV shows here in the U.S. anyway. So
right,
yeah, they're a very big studio.
Yeah, exactly.
They've even done some WWE movies.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I'm not sure what they are, but
I can't think of them off the top of my head.
It's probably the Marine 5 or some shit.
No, it's I can't think of any. My mind is too jumbled right now to think of it. but they're very well known. I mean, they put out some stuff, so they're very out there.
For sure. And then just one last little thing. I had a quick look on IMDb. I like to do that to see if there's any goofs or whatever. A couple of things that were mentioned on here. One was apparently a plot hole. I don't know, but they said that once the storage unit was found, the police didn't bother to stake out the unit for the killer to return. Instead, they just stayed there to examine the evidence found and possibly missing an opportunity to capture them. I don't know that that's necessarily a plot hole, but like that's just a logic thing. Like, especially if you come into that type of thing where you're looking, you know it's the house of the person, and you're looking for evidence. Like, especially when you walk in and you see like the blood on the floor and all that. I wouldn't stake. Maybe they did try and stake out, and at that point he knew. I don't know.
And that's the thing. He was always 10 steps ahead of him. So I mean, I'm sure he already knew that they were there. You know. I don't see that plot hole there. I think he already knew that they were there, so why go back?
Right. And another one that I'm not sure I agree on it either, but they said that when the police are guarding the girl in the hospital, they all knew that the killer looked like from his driver's license photo and that he was unusually tall, yet none of the police recognized him when he passed them numerous times in the hallway. This hospital scene should have taken place before the scene where the police identify the suspect and circulate his photo. I think you've missed the point where, you know, they know who he is and, you know, he doesn't care. Like, right. This is a way for him to taunt the police. Even if he got caught at that point, he would have got caught. But they were so invested and probably super shocked at the fact that he's attacked a young girl and mainly just sort of her well-being, and just probably so tired. Because I think it was late at night as well. Like, he manipulates the situation. That's just basically what he does. He manipulates it. And ultimately, that's what he's gone and done. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily a character error, so I'll defend you on that. So,
right on. But yeah, that's Strange Harvest. And like John said, don't walk, run. Go check this out. It's going to boggle your mind. It's going to creep you out. It's going to take you for a wild ride.
Yeah, it's going to make you want to lock your doors, your back doors particularly, because that's where he comes in. Even if you have a screen door, he will come through it, and Mr. Shiny will be there waiting for the harvest to begin.
Lock your back doors. Tighten your buttholes, buddy.
Hell yeah. But anyway, we'll leave you here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You can find us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Spotify, on Amazon, on Apple Podcasts, all at We Found a Tape.
And don't forget, be kind and rewind.